welcome to Setting the Bar, a Workbar podcast. We are here today with Darcy Krinsky of Higher Ground. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yay, we're so excited to have you, Darcy.
Thank you guys for having me.
We are so excited to have you because we love a female entrepreneur.
We do. We do.
So do I.
You know, we love to see it. We love to see women-led businesses exploding in Boston. So we want to hear all about your journey, and we want to talk about what it's like to be a lady in the fitness industry these days. So first, tell us a little bit about Higher Ground.
Yes. So we started in 2018. It was a wild ride. I was working full-time for Reebok at the time. When I made the decision to open, I found out a few short months after that I was pregnant with twins.
Oh my God, I am a twin.
Are you?
Yes, I love twins. I love having a twin. My mom's a twin. I always wanted twins.
It is a
Tell
special
me everything
bond.
about your twins.
They're amazing. They're fraternal, and they don't even look like cousins or distant relatives.
serious?
So
One
funny.
is blue-haired, blonde-eyed. The other one is dark-haired, dark-eyed.
And different
just
personalities?
Different. But
Really?
best friends still.
Wild.
Yeah.
5. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Oh no, they'll be best friends forever.
It's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
so cute.
Oh, I love that, Darcy.
Oh, I know. The twin thing is very cool.
But it was a wild ride. So when we opened, we decided to open in the suburbs, which I can get into more of that later. But it was a whole ball of challenges with that, just because no one really knew of the workout out there, especially from the instructor hiring perspective. And it was really just trying to balance it all. But I had found the workout when I was living in California and Los Angeles, where I really just had access to all of the touch points of boutique fitness. And when I moved back and started a family, I just really started to think, why does moving to the suburbs mean that all of a sudden you just have to settle and go to the big catch-all gym or the local yoga studio? And I thought that if there is a me out here that really wants to have a family and move outside for space and for all of those logistical reasons, that there had to be other women like me that didn't want to settle. And so the idea of Higher Ground Fitness was born.
I love that so much because it speaks to how Workbar grew organically from the idea of, well, this isn't something that's been done before, but I think there's a need for it because that's how I want to live my life. So I'm going to go out and create something for people who are like me because I know there's a market for it. So I think it's super gutsy because you brought Higher Ground, or the idea of it, and I want to get into that a little bit more, from LA, from the West Coast. That was a workout you fell in love with out there. You brought it back here. So not only did you bring a new way to work out to the East Coast, but then you also thought, I'm not going to put it in downtown Boston. I'm going to put it out in the suburbs where more people like me can access it easily, more frequently, and all that kind of good stuff. So what made you fall in love with Higher Ground out on the West Coast? What's so different about it?
Yeah, I think the way I describe is it like a first date? And really that feeling of, you walked in, you don't know what you're getting. You have this vision in your head of what you think, and I thought I was walking into a traditional Pilates class, which was very kind of serene and, slower moving, low impact. And when I walked out of class, I couldn't tell you what happened that 45 minutes that I was in there.
I blacked out.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And it was a little bit of kind of that really good first date feeling where, your heart is pounding, you're a little bit confused, you feel maybe like you almost blacked out during that time.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know what just happened, but I definitely want it again. And if you tried to describe it to somebody, you couldn't. And that's really what the workout was like. It was undescribable because my background, I was an athlete, a college soccer player. I'd had a few knee surgeries that forced me to hang up my cleats. But then because I couldn't have that kind of high impact pounding on my joints anymore, I was going to yoga studios or mat Pilates and things like that, and I just wasn't getting that same rush anymore. And after I took this class, it was one of the only workouts I'd ever done, and that one of the few workouts that exists that's low impact but high intensity, so it really gets you into that cardio burn. And it's a mental challenge too, so it brought back that athletic spirit in me that I was missing.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So I have done some of those workouts before. It's on a Pilates Megaformer. And can you explain a little bit about how it's different from regular Pilates? So, like, how you get into it and why after 45 minutes you're like, am I still alive?
Yes.
That's how I feel after I do those workouts.
So if you look at the machine, it has similar characteristics of a traditional reformer. It has springs below a moving carriage that if you think of the moving carriage, it's almost like if you were to really just stand on that piece of it and move your body, it acts like a surfboard. So that's where the core instability comes in, which is similar to a Pilates reformer workout. But really where it's a departure from it is that high intensity piece that it's a total body workout. So you're going to stand up on the machine, you're going to do moving lunges, you're going to do squats all with varied tension. So at no point during the workout are you exerting like max effort, like going to do a sprint. But it's really sustained effort through the whole class that is on the brink of that cardiovascular 70% heart rate level. And that's where it's different than Pilates, that you will be breathless. So our moves are very slow, but the transitions between between moves are fast and intense.
Right.
So it almost becomes this little bit of a race in between 1 to 2 minute long moves of in 10 seconds, you're getting to the front of the machine, you're putting your hands here in 3, 2, 1, go. And the whole class sprints almost to that next move. So it's for the first few classes, again, that feeling of like it being a whirlwind, but you're like, I want to get there. I want to master that. It's seeing the person next to you. And while it's a boutique group class, there's a little bit of that kind of individual challenge in it that just makes it more energetic and fun.
I love it. I love to see the glint in your eye when you're like talking about competition and the rush. It's like such the college athlete in you coming back out. I love that.
Yeah.
Where did you play soccer?
At Stonehill College.
Very cool.
So, local. It's actually Easton is where I live now, so it's come full circle.
That's
But
you born in Massachusetts?
born in Massachusetts,
Okay.
Waltham.
That's awesome.
I grew up.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
The little girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure we know a lot of similar people. I love that. And like Sarah was touching on before, I think it's so cool to see women especially making decisions for their businesses that they know in their heart is the right decision. So many times you hear about, women not getting to make those decisions, or people saying, oh, that's never going to work. And when Sarah decided to move Workbar out to the suburbs, people were like, that is crazy. Why would you do that? And it has been why Workbar is so successful. And we see so many women, and of course men too, but so grateful for that because it gives them the flexibility to be able to continue to do their careers, to be able to keep working when they're married, when they have kids, when they settle in the suburbs. I love the idea of settling without settling.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I think of my life's mission as creating workspaces out in the suburbs so women do not have to settle and they can work outside of the house if they choose to and want to throughout every different phase of their life. And that is what I've sort of dedicated my life to create these types of workspaces, not just for women, obviously, but it certainly is always something in my head to create these workspaces so women do not have to leave the workspace or the workforce throughout when they're having children, when they're wherever life takes them. And it sounds very similar to what you've created and the jump you took to leave a company like Reebok after more than a decade of working there and to jump into the sort of boutique fitness world and create these really special spaces out closer to where people live. So tell us a little bit about leaving Reebok, and you touched on this a little bit, but what was that like? You're pregnant with twins, you leave Reebok, you open these beautiful fitness centers, and then COVID hits. Is that sort of what the trajectory looked like in the beginning? Yeah.
She's like, don't remind me.
I have post-traumatic stress from that period as well. So
I get that. I get that. We all do. But as small business owners, I cannot imagine riding that wave.
It was challenging. Like you said, I had spent so much of my life, actually at the time, 50% of my life almost, I had been at Reebok. So I started the morning after I graduated Stonehill College, I started at Reebok.
Wow.
I had so many various roles there, from human resources I started in. I had moved to California and did sales. I had done public relations. So I really was a big believer in building horizontally and learning all different facets of the business, which my time at Reebok I loved. And it was one of my identifiers. I mean, if you meet me within the first 10 minutes, you knew I worked at Reebok because I was so proud of it.
You were so passionate.
And the relationships I made there, it was such an amazing chapter of my life. But I knew that I had this this idea of higher ground fitness that I wanted to build. And a soccer coach had once said to me when choosing, she was, I think, my junior year soccer coach, had said, you know, when you make this decision, do you want to be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish, a small fish in a big pond? And it wasn't ever for me about the glory of being the big fish, but I think I kind of used that mindset when opening Higher Ground. If there's so many women, like to your point that you just said, that made the decision to move out to the suburbs, and why did all of a sudden that mean that now they were the small fish?
Right.
So I wanted to create a platform where we created that small pond, meaning Higher Ground in the suburbs, and a platform for these women to shine and to still have that potential unlocked of that feeling when they went into a big city and all of a sudden they were like, oh, I just did that class, empowered. So that's really where it started. And when I made the decision to leave, it was scary. I mean, I remember at the time, my dad, who loved telling everybody that his daughter worked at Reebok, and it was a little hard. He's like, what are you going to do? Because at the time, you know, boutique fitness was still really on the rise. But it was a little bit of a leap of faith and the real belief that I could do it. And I think that would be the biggest advice I would give anybody that was doing it. Not to, so many times you hear that people are leaving because they're trying to walk away from something. And, you know, I want to go do this so that I don't have to be on their schedule or anything like that. And, you know, sure, there is a piece of it that you have flexibility, but the onus is on you now. You probably find you work harder than ever, smarter than ever, but to make sure that whatever you're leaving for, you really believe that there's value in it and that you have so much belief in it yourself.
I think it's such a common misconception that starting your own business means you don't have to like work as hard or you're not on the clock. It's actually the total opposite, and now you work 24/7. And it is such a huge risk to take, and it just like warms my heart. I have goosebumps a little bit to hear about young women taking those risks, because it's so important to show the future generation, like the young girls, that you guys can do this too. Like you can work hard on the field, off the field, at work, at home. You can. These days, we are so lucky to be raising kids in this generation. You really can have it all, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And it is such a huge risk. And I would love to hear more about like what those early days were like in the transition with twins on the way and then having two babies at once. Or were the twins your first kids?
They were. I have two stepchildren who lived with us full time. And
so you got a taste of it, but there's nothing like becoming a new mom.
That newborn, especially the two.
Right. And I was still at Reebok at the time. And, you know, so I was, right before the kids were born, I was coming home, you know, every day. And, you know, where your day might end at 5, 6, whatever time it was, your corporate day, it felt like I was starting the day all over. And really navigating, I think that's one of the biggest things. A lot of times people look at entrepreneurs and it's the little things. I may know fitness. I don't know how to start an LLC.
Right.
I don't know that, you know, when I get the email that I didn't file my work, I'm like, what is that? And you're Googling. I mean, Google is your best friend when you're starting a business. But it was that early days when no one knew in the suburbs really what Legree Fitness was, having to educate them on that. And then out of default, we opened as a Pilates studio. And the workout is so much more than Pilates that I think there's a lot of initial clients that are like, you tricked us. It's not really that. But, you know, then when I had the babies, I remember actually, and it seems crazy now, sitting in the delivery room trying to upload the schedule before the doctors were like, okay, we gotta go.
We actually have to deliver these children.
Yeah, and at the time, it seemed like crazy things, but looking back, you just do it.
Right.
And it's like, you just do it, you do it, you do it, and then it comes together. And then the babies were born, and you know, I think I was training people on the machine up until like a week before.
That's wild.
But they came, and you know, it was a crazy time, but then the pandemic.
Right.
And you know, the world shut down. And I think for a couple weeks, I was like, all right, this is a nice breath. Like everybody thought it was just
we were going home for 2 weeks,
right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it wasn't a few weeks, and then it was longer. And I think in the service industry probably got hit the hardest. And no one had the playbook of what to do. So we're all navigating it at the time and navigating. Luckily, my kids at the time weren't in school yet, but there was still, our babysitter wasn't coming anymore. And so we figured out a way to do at home, like we called it home ground instead of higher ground.
I love
and
that. That's
figuring
cute.
out Zoom. And I knew more about microphones in a week than I ever cared to know.
I took a couple Zoom fitness classes.
I definitely did.
It was the way. So, we navigated that. But then I think one thing that was interesting that I had heard this story actually when we were looking for preschools. It was 2 preschools that had different security measures and nothing related to COVID. This was pre-COVID. And they were talking, it was more of the security of children and the safety of them not leaving facilities and things like that. And one, they both had the same equipment, and one decided to highlight to all of their prospective parents, this is everything we're doing, and these are the fingerprint patches and this. And then the other daycare had the same things, but just didn't talk about it, knew that that was something that would arouse like anxiety in parents. So they just decided to let them see it, visibly see it. And the study of the 2 was that preschool did significantly performed better with, turnover and everything because it was there, but it wasn't talked about. So when I used a little bit of that kind of guidance when we were able to reopen. Again, no one knew what they were doing, and I probably spent 48 hours in Home Depot, like in the plumbing department, looking for PVC piping to make 10-foot-long barriers. But we decided our stance was we weren't going to overly talk about it. Everyone everywhere was talking about COVID and safety protocols. So when we opened, we just didn't take that approach. We knew that people needed an outlet to come back, to work out mentally. Everybody was just, it was a challenging time. So we chose to just say, go back to our kind of key phrase of like escape to higher ground. Let this be where you're going to go. And when they walked in, they visibly saw that we were doing everything that everywhere you looked or had a conversation was being talked about. And it was just there. And I think we ended up, actually, we opened 2 studios during the pandemic right after we were able to reopen, because I think people really did look at it as, wow, this is a place that I can just escape for a few minutes, that I'm not talking about the world, on fire right now, and it's just a place I can enjoy and go and be safe, but not talk about it.
Right.
So it was a key learning in communication style and how specific moments can define your brand.
So interesting. That's a great story. And May, which we're filming this as May, is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we've been talking about that a little bit at Workbar, because we think of Workbar as a space where we're actively trying to combat the loneliness epidemic and get people out of their homes and get people out of this sort of remote life that they're living in, and trying to get them to come join a community where you might be able to effectively do your job from the privacy of your own home. But we want you to come into Workbar because you get so much more out of your 9-to-5 day than just heads down work. You can connect with people. You can just fill your bucket in different ways. And so as we think about mental health, obviously going hand in hand with that is making this type of fitness accessible to people out there who definitely need it. What are your thoughts around sort of fitness and mental health and how that sort of, goes hand in hand?
I'd almost say you take out the word "and," because like mental health and fitness, it's literally interlocked.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of maybe the key differentiators, where if I was to ever ask the question of like you and your competition or you and other gyms, how does it differ? Because while we're a brand, we're not ever going to be the brand that just slaps a logo on you, neon lights, comes into your neighborhood and plops in, and that expects the community to come to us.
Right.
I think that we're really the inverse of that, and meaning that we want to provide community. We want every location to have a little bit of a community-centric approach that's different from our studio in Milton, from our studio in Mansfield, because it really is true to the community. Like, we want to be part of the community that's there and offer them an outlet and somewhere to go. We want those conversations after class to go on for 20 minutes of people meeting up, wanting to go for coffee or wanting to go for something. And we constantly are working with other female-owned businesses to do, Friday night Galentine's Day events where all these little small boutique businesses are coming in, that it's just getting them in front of new clients, community, and building the network, not because they all like the workout, but because of those community vibes that are going to elevate them in a little bit of play off the name, higher ground, or just going to kind of transcend them to a new mindset, emotionally, mentally. And then, of course, the physical piece of it, that's when you work out, there's something to it. You do feel better.
For sure.
But it's the mental and emotional journey that is so kind of interlocked with
It's so important. We talk a lot about how there's no metric to measure community, but it's a feeling, and it's something when I say, okay, I know that community is at that specific Workbar is working well because these two people came into the space, they didn't know one another, but now they're going out to dinner after work. They're having drinks, they're going to events together. And that to me is what, that's the measurement of community, right? When people who didn't know each other before find a common ground, find a higher ground and come in and become friends, and it extends beyond whatever physical space that you're facilitating that interaction. And what I love about your model is that you are strategically going into different suburban locations, and you seem to be taking over all of Massachusetts.
Girl.
Yeah, girl. What is your growth strategy? What are we looking at? How many higher grounds are there today?
We have 3 right now. We've announced a 4th.
Okay. And where are they? Mansfield, Milton. Hold on, let me see if I can get the other one because I've been. It starts with a W.
It's in my neck of the woods.
Westwood.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have those 3 right now. We've announced that we are opening in Southie, but again.
Oh, Southie. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Southie, yeah.
The Southie girls are going to go crazy.
They are.
Southie girls, get ready.
Right on the east side, 600 East Broadway. So we'll be
I used to live there for like over a decade. I was on East 2nd between K and L.
I was right next to Farragut.
Were you? Oh,
I love
Oh my gosh,
Farragut
I
House.
love
Farragut
this.
House. Oh, remember Farragut House?
I
It was
loved
the
it.
best. The karaoke. Amazing.
Those were the days,
Those were the days.
ladies.
Those were the days. Okay, so when is Southie opening?
Hopefully late summer, early fall.
Oh, nice.
That's so exciting. What is the growth plan? Do you have more in the works? We won't
do.
announce towns.
We
won't
do.
blow 'em
We
up,
have
but
an aggressive growth strategy.
That's
And
awesome.
beyond the studios, I think team as well. So I have always, everyone says, are you looking to franchise? And at this time, no. We really
Okay.
want to build the kind of the corporate model out and really focus on growing the team as well. So we just got a location in Milton for our headquarters.
Nice.
So we have our training headquarter facility there now, and I think so next steps, you wouldn't be surprised to see 5 more studios in the next 6 months from us.
Wow. Okay.
So it is aggressive.
Aggressive is right. Good for you.
Yes, and then beyond that, continuing to expand and really using the spider web approach, because I'll meet people often that say, come do one in the North Shore, come do one here,
Right.
but we want to do it smart. So our biggest asset is our instructors, is the team approach. So we want to make sure that each instructor usually goes and teaches at a couple of studios. So rather than just taking the massive leap and going out of our network and having to start over, just continuing to grow. But more than just the studio approach, I think that, we really look at ourselves as a boutique lifestyle brand more so than just a workout. So we will continue to partner with other female entrepreneurs and really just grow our network, do some cool collaborations coming up.
Yes, I have some ideas.
And how are you guys? Are you self-funded? Are you bootstrapped? Did you take any equity?
So I initially, when I had this idea, it was crazy. I remember it was December 19th in 2017, and I had talked to a friend who had a studio. I was, again, working full-time, and I don't think I really knew if I wanted to for sure open it. I had the idea, but I was just teetering on it at the time.
Yeah.
And when I talked to her, she said, ironically, that they were closing their studio and they had the option of either returning their machines or keeping them and selling them. So I had 10 days basically before January 1st to decide. And I remember I told my husband about the idea, and while he is 100% supportive about it, it was in the mix of 20 things we were talking about, and it kind of just got lost in the shuffle. And I went to bed that night thinking, I got to do this. I'm never going to have an opportunity like this.
Yeah.
So I called my 401k holder the next day, took most of my 401k money out, and started it myself.
Wow.
And then on January 2nd, he said, what do you want to open a studio? I was like, I did it.
Okay,
Actually, already opened it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I put the machines in storage for about 6 months until I found a location. So I completely self-funded. We did do one small SBA loan, which is probably the most challenging paperwork-wise questions, things you have to pull together that I've never done. But it was a huge self-accomplishment to, I think, do it and justify that, no, I've earned like in the view of the government, I have a business that should be funded.
Absolutely.
So while it was challenging, it was great.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've continued self-fund the rest of them.
That is very impressive. It's so interesting to hear. I remember when I first became CEO, I was, I've never done this before, I've never done that before. And the advice from so many people I spoke to was like, well, you're going to have to like kind of jump in with both feet and figure it out anyway. So there's always going to be, everybody has their first time doing something, and you just got to go for it and figure it out as you
do it scared.
You got to do it scared. Yeah, because otherwise, nothing would ever happen. Innovation would never spark. So that's a very cool story. Good for you. Yeah.
I would love to go back to the idea about community for a second, because it's such a commonality between Higher Ground and Workbar. And I think it is so cool to see these smaller businesses growing in this area, because Boston is such a city that is about community. It's like a big city, it has a big city reputation. But it really is it has like those small town community vibes. Everybody knows everybody.
I know before this, we were talking, before we started filming, I said something about, we talked to Nico Verana with Sweat House, and Darcy was like, I know Nico. And then we were, it's all very, very interconnected in Boston.
And when we were talking with Big Night about starting this podcast, one of the things that really drew us to this partnership was their love for community.
That's right.
And it is so cool to see how community can build businesses across industries. Like, there couldn't be more of a difference between a co-working space and a
boutique fitness.
Fitness. Okay. But there is so much commonality, and people are going to spaces like Workbar, like Higher Ground, like Big Night Live, where we are now, to experience those feelings, and you can get them in so many places. And I think it's so cool to see a city like Boston supporting female-led businesses in that respect. And I think obviously, as a woman and as a young mom, love to see it happening for people like us, because historically that hasn't been possible. And now you see women like you guys at the forefront running these businesses and doing it scared. And I just think it's so inspirational. It's like, okay, well, I'm the CEO now, so here we go.
Darcy and I are very inspirational.
You guys are fully.
As are you, Maddie.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe one day I'll go back to being a small business owner, but for now I'll stick to podcasting with Workbar.
You do a little more than that,
I think it's so awesome, and it does bring up so many ways to partner with other businesses. And you were saying, like, when people come into the studio and are talking for 20 minutes after, we call it in our spaces like the bump and connect.
That's true.
But it happens every day. We had this past week was Small Business Week, and so we did some small business expos at a few of our locations, and they were very small events, but every single one of them, our members came away with a new potential partnership, a new friend, a new idea for their own business based on somebody else's business. And I find it so unique to Boston when I talk to people about what we're doing and the conversations we have with people like you. It does seem a little more unique to our city and our area. And I, as a Waltham resident and growing up, I would love to know kind of how you feel about growing your business in this special environment.
Yes, it's great question. I completely agree. I think that being a local, while I didn't grow up in Boston proper, it was 9 miles from it, and I think that is the biggest reason for the success of our brand, of being able to rely on people who, again, may be in a totally different industry, but maybe they had experience signing a lease on that same street with their building. Right. So they're going to connect you with the right people to help work with MAAB in Boston and navigate that. Or maybe it's somebody that even just knows clients that helps you build your first network. And I think that there's something, we've all seen those viral videos that are like the Boston guy and they're doing the fake accent, and we all kind of like cringe when it happens.
Like, we do, like, not Boston.
That's
right.
Not
what we sound like.
But there's something about having that grid of like, no, we are from Boston, and just that glue of wanting to stick together and wanting to support. And in Waltham, it was a blue-collar town growing up, and areas of town that still now people that come in might be like, oh, that's kind of a rough area town. I'm like, it's not a rough area town. No. That's a pizza shop. And it's having that like institution, like local knowledge, knowing how to navigate that. It's just, that a little bit of edgy, rough grit factor makes Boston. And everybody, it seems, that I've in the business world, whether they're in business or, again, just potential clients, have wanted to help and have wanted to navigate it.
that.
And the way we look at it when you go into higher ground is what we always talk about, modifying. And if you think of modifying in fitness, it's, go a little less intense or do this. But sure, there's that aspect of it. But we always say we modify for everything. We modify for breakups. We modify for hangovers. We modify for
that.
whatever it is that Saturday morning that you may be like, I do not want to get up and go. That community, if you walk in our door, we promise whatever's going on in your life, whatever you need to modify for, do it. But you're going to feel better because there are other people in that class that are just going to lift you up and make you feel better, build you higher. So that really is the mental piece of it. But I don't know. I agree. I don't think that's like that in other cities. I've gone to a lot of workouts, and
Boston's
you
the
leave.
best.
You walk out of the door.
Right.
Right, you're like, okay.
Say bye.
Yeah.
It's different here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
love
noticed
it.
on your website too, I kept seeing the words, there's no judgment here. And I was like, that's what I need in my life.
I know.
I need to go
Hard
into higher
same.
ground where there's no judgment.
Yeah. I know.
I took my first class, and I remember being like, what? And at the time, I think I considered myself an athlete. And
Yeah.
like, that was tough. And so no one is good at this class the first time because we call things like catfish, spider kick, like
Right, whatever.
no one knows it. So we always say it when someone walks in a little nervous. We're like, you could be an Olympian walking through this door right now. You could be a 70-year-old, and again, age not, and like
Yeah.
just
Right.
hasn't maybe worked out in a while, different phase of their
Right.
life. And we're still going to guide you through a workout that's perfect for you.
Yeah.
This Olympian's going to get the workout that they need, and so is this grandmother, because it is
So
scalable,
cool.
it's modifiable, and there is no judgment. We say, stare at the person next to you. It's a compliment to them to be like, I've arrived. I know this workout now.
Like someone's looking at me to see how to do
Everybody.
it.
That literally,
Right.
you'll hear people be like, oh my gosh, you should have seen me my first class.
Really? I
love
Because
that.
it really is just that open environment that we're all learning, we're all growing, and we're
Yeah.
all here to try something new.
I love
love
that
that.
because some of the boutique fitness places can be super
It
intimidating.
is intimidating.
You
yes.
see these like very fit-looking women
Yes.
walking in and out in their very cute outfits, and you're just like, ooh, I don't know.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
like you just said, there's somebody walking in behind you who's having that thought about you.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
I love to hear that. It's funny actually. My brother's girlfriend just got certified, and how do you say it? Legrassi.
Legree.
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 Okay, Legrassi is like a sandwich place in Boston.
And wasn't
on
that like
Legree, I
a
guess.
show, like Degrassi High? Or
Oh my God!
Degrassi.
Oh, Degrassi. That's right. We'll get there.
Drake.
We'll get there. Yeah, it's a Drake on the mind.
But I like that Maddie just tried to call it a sandwich shop.
Listen, guys, I did not have breakfast this morning. You know me, girls gotta eat. I'm thinking about a
Oh my
sandwich.
God.
But she just got certified to teach classes at some studios in Connecticut.
Great.
She's coming up here next weekend, and she was like, "We should go do that workout." And I was like, "I will like bring shame to you. Like you don't want to do this workout with me." And she was like, "No, we're doing it. Like you've done it before. You know what to expect."
You're
But
so
it is
close to the
funny.
Westwood
Well, believe
one.
me, after
I
this, I'm
know.
like, sign me up.
I know.
But it really is so nice, and I do think there is something about this method that really kind of like levels the playing field in a way that other places don't.
Yeah.
Because you're all on the same machine, and like you can level up, level down, move the springs, and I love that. And I
Yeah.
love thinking about
Yeah.
like, okay, I can do this, whatever. I'm sweating and about to pass out. But like 2 weeks from now, it'll be a little bit easier. And then you pass on that, like, you got it.
Yeah.
To the
And you
next
think
person.
you can do anything for 45 minutes, right?
You really
You
can.
really can.
You really
So you
can.
might as well try it. Now, I also read that you are a Lululemon ambassador. Is that right?
Congratulations. That is very exciting.
It was such an honor. I mean, as a child walking into some of these stores, you'd look up on the walls, and it was just you were just wowed by
Absolutely.
just being there.
Yes.
And when the opportunity came up, I had butterflies.
Did
It
you?
was this
So
like,
cool.
I can't wait for my parents to see it.
Yes.
No matter how old you get, no matter whatever the level
So
of
true.
success, it's still that you want to make someone else proud.
Of course.
My
Totally.
parents instilled that determination and grit and all of that since I was a little kid playing soccer. And I think it really was just that proud moment of having, like, sending the screenshot. My parents were in Florida at the time when it got unveiled, but just seeing their expression on the FaceTime Zoom,
Yeah.
like, wow. But
Oh, that's really
it was great.
cool.
And their whole mantra is community, back to all
Right.
of that. Of what are our ambassadors going to do to help kind of redefine fitness and access to fitness and community approach to it. So it was a
love that.
exciting moment.
That is really exciting.
And you're making me feel like I'm not wasting my time bringing my children to soccer practice every day, because you've seemed to have had a continuation from when you were very little throughout your entire career.
Yes.
So maybe soccer will.
There is something
these soccer
to it.
practices will lead to
and
to
who
something.
likes practice, right?
Right.
I definitely can say I didn't. I gave my parents a hard time probably all the way up to college. But I think that the grit that my dad taught me of, you don't have to like it, you have to do it.
Right.
And the game comes because you've put in all of this practice time. And that's just something that throughout my years, it's kind of stayed true to me of, you might not like it. You might not like showing up for class. You might not like filling out all this paperwork you need for the SBA loan or whatever it is, but just do it.
Just do
because
it.
you have to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
My daughter I have an 11-year-old daughter who does club lacrosse, and on the Laxachusetts shirts this season, it says, "Nobody cares, work harder." And I'm like, those are words to live by.
Yeah.
Like,
That is,
not
like,
even just like a
intense, but I
young
love it.
It's intense. Well, club sports are intense.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
talk.
Not
We can talk for a very long time about that. That's a whole other pod episode. But I do like that mentality of, we're all going through something. No one cares. Just get out there and do what it is you're here to do for that hour or two.
Right.
You came to play lacrosse. You came to play soccer. Go out and do it.
Right. And you don't have to be the best to do it.
No, just go. But do it.
Just do it. It's something I'm trying to tell my kids now. Like, they want to run off the soccer field because they're scared. It's like, just literally, you don't have to be the best at it. Just sit out in the middle of the field.
Yes.
And then after 10 minutes, usually they start giggling and having fun with their friends. And as long as what you're doing eventually becomes fun, do it.
It's a
I
worthwhile
have a
activity.
Yeah. I have a 5-year-old daughter who started soccer last week, and she spent the vast majority of the hour doing gymnastics on the field.
Yeah.
So, like, I am traumatized by the experience because she was so nervous and was, like, doing gymnastics to soothe herself.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, she was out there. If that's what she wants to be doing, tear it up, girl.
Look, she's 5.
Totally.
Yes.
You
but
do
it's so
you. You do you, June.
and you do you, June. But you know, hearing somebody who's like so fitness focused, who grew up playing
and
soccer,
so successful.
Yeah, saying that, even you hear about these like crazy parents on the sidelines, and I've seen them myself already, like yelling at their 5 and 6-year-old. It's that very thing. You just kind of have to get out there, and just take the first step. Just start.
I somehow got roped into being the 5-year-old soccer coach.
I love it.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
I love it.
I know. I sent an email saying, like, can you just let me know what the commitment level is like? They answered none of my questions and said, thank you. Saturday
my
morning
God.
at 9:30,
We'll
you have
see
team
you there.
But it's so true to the point. It's like, I think my strategy was, we played red light, green light, and sharks and minnows the whole time.
Yeah, it's so
90% of
fun.
practice, they didn't have a ball because it's about making it fun.
That's right.
Stage. And if you go out there and you try to make them do drills and have
it's so
they're going to end up in tears. The parents are going to be upset.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's not going to come back the following week.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No,
The
I love
only part of kids' sport is to have fun.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
They're
So
not going to be messy tomorrow.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Let them get that energy out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this has been such a treat.
Darcy. Every time we have a podcast guest, I'm like, Maddie, that was my favorite.
I know, but this is like really.
Darcy's my
I will
favorite.
talk like for 5 more
I know.
hours about like being a young mom and business.
I know.
And female-led business. I just think like this area is so lucky to have you. We are so lucky to
Yes.
have chatted with you today.
You're crushing it. We're all going to higher ground.
Literally, I'm like gonna
Yes.
sign up at Westwood immediately after
Yes.
this. I
I'm
gotta
going to
get
talk
back
to a couple
into it.
landlords in Hingham
Yeah.
and make sure that
We can have
that's
some
on.
Workbar classes.
Oh my
Wanna
gosh,
come? Why don't we do a
Well,
private
I'm
Workbar
very
class?
much. I'm like, we have to do lots of fun partnerships. I think
Absolutely.
there's so much great crossover here, and we'll bring you our members, you bring us yours.
And I'm
we'll
coming
have a
too.
blast.
Yeah, not just
And if
members,
you guys
but
want to open in
employees.
Easton,
Workbar
my
is
family
always
would thank you. Be-
Workbar is always on the hunt for new locations. We go
let's
where
go.
people tell us.
Yeah.
So if there's a need for Workbar in Easton, we will come to Easton.
Easton, look
Yeah,
out! Here we
Easton,
come.
here comes Workbar. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Darcy.
thanks,
Thank you very
Darcy.
much.
This was so
It's so
fun.
fun.
Thanks for spending
so
Friday
fun.
morning
I
with
know.
us.